You've seen the headlines, right? On one side, you've got keto cured my diabetes, and on the other, keto is a dangerous fad. If you're trying to manage diabetes, the internet can feel like a total war zone of conflicting advice, leaving you wondering, what on earth am I supposed to believe? Well, today, we're going to cut right through that noise. So let's just be detectives for a few minutes. Let's dig in and uncover what the actual science says. We're going to dive into the clinical trials, the official guidelines, and the real-world evidence for both the powerful benefits and the serious risks. And spoiler alert, the truth is a whole lot more nuanced than either of those extremes would have you believe. So here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics, what these diets even are. Then we'll look at the pretty impressive results from major studies. After that, we get real about the risks, and trust me, they are real. We'll help you figure out who this might actually work for, and finally lay out the absolute non-negotiable rules for starting safely. You ready? Let's get into it. All right, first up, what are we even talking about when we say low-carb or keto? They are not the same thing, and that difference is actually super important for understanding how they affect your body. A moderate low-carb diet, it still includes a decent amount of carbohydrates, but a ketogenic diet, that is much, much stricter. We're talking about dropping your carb intake down to just 20 to 50 grams per day for most people. And it's this really drastic reduction that flips a fascinating metabolic switch in our body, a state called ketosis. So what is nutritional ketosis? Well, it's a completely natural process. When your body doesn't get enough carbs, which is its usual go-to fuel, it starts breaking down fat for energy instead. This process creates these little molecules called ketones. The whole idea for diabetes management is pretty simple. Fewer carbs coming in means less glucose in your system, which means your body doesn't need to produce as much insulin to manage it. Okay, so that's the theory, but how does this actually play out in the real world? This is where all the hype comes from, because the numbers coming out of clinical research on keto for type 2 diabetes are frankly pretty remarkable. Take a look at this number from the big Virta Health trial. After just 1 year, nearly half, 47% of the participants with type 2 diabetes achieved remission. And remission means their HbA1c, that's their average blood sugar, was below the diabetes threshold, without needing any diabetes medication at all. 47%. I mean, that is a life-changing number. And it's not just one study. When you look across multiple reviews, ketogenic diets consistently lowered HbA1c by as much as 1.45 percentage points. Now, just for context, a more moderate low-carb diet might lower it by about 0.3%. That's a massive difference. It really shows just how powerful this stricter approach can be. But what does a 1% drop in HbA1c actually mean for your health? Well, this long-term data from the famous UKPDS study breaks it down. Just look at these numbers. Every single percentage point drop is linked to a 21% lower risk of diabetes-related deaths, a 14% lower risk of heart attacks, and a huge 37% drop in the risk of those nasty microvascular complications that affect your eyes, your kidneys, and your nerves. Okay, the results are powerful. No doubt about it. But, and this is a big but, this is not an approach to be taken lightly. It comes with some very real risks, and it is absolutely not for everyone. Understanding this side of the coin is it's critical before you even think about it. First and foremost, we have to make this distinction crystal clear. The goal of a keto diet is nutritional ketosis, a safe, controlled metabolic state. This is a world away from diabetic ketoacidosis, or DKA. DKA is a life-threatening medical emergency where you have dangerously high levels of both ketones and blood glucose. They are not the same thing. Beyond that, there are other major risks to watch. The most immediate one is hypoglycemia, dangerously low blood sugar, which can happen if you're on medications like insulin and you don't adjust your dose properly. Some people also see a pretty big spike in their LDL, or bad cholesterol. And then there's something the studies don't always capture, which is just how hard it can be to stick to such a restrictive diet long term. That's a huge hurdle for a lot of people. Now, for some people, keto is simply off the table. Full stop. The American Diabetes Association is very clear. If you are on an SGLT2 inhibitor medication that includes brands like Jardiance or Farxiga, you should avoid a ketogenic diet because of a higher risk of a serious type of ketoacidosis. It's also strongly discouraged for people with type 1 diabetes without an endocrinologist direct supervision, or for anyone with kidney disease, a history of eating disorders, or who's pregnant. So we've seen the incredible potential and the serious risks. Given all that, who is the ideal candidate?
Who's most likely to actually benefit from this kind of approach?
Well, the evidence really points to people with type 2 diabetes who have significant insulin resistance. It's also a powerful tool for those with prediabetes. But beyond the medical profile, there's the practical side of things. This works for people who actually enjoy these kinds of foods and, maybe most importantly, have the mindset to stick with a really restrictive eating plan over the long haul.
Okay, so let's say you fit that profile, and you and your doctor agree this might be a path worth exploring. How do you start safely? Following these rules is not optional. It is absolutely essential.
Rule number 1, and you can see it's right at the top for a reason: talk to your doctor first. This is completely non-negotiable. You have to have a plan to adjust your medications before you cut a single carbohydrate. From there, it's smart to transition gradually. It just eases your body into it. You'll need to monitor your blood sugar way more often, stay on top of hydration and electrolytes, and have regular check-ins with your healthcare team. Ultimately, all of this brings us to a fundamental truth about nutrition, doesn't it? There is no single best diet that works for everyone. The science is compelling, sure, and the success stories are amazing, but the best approach for you is the one that you can stick with safely and consistently over time. And please remember this: it doesn't have to be all or nothing. For a lot of people, a strict ketogenic diet just isn't sustainable. And that's okay. A moderate low-carb diet can be a fantastic, effective, and much more manageable middle ground that still delivers really significant health benefits. This brings us to the most important takeaway of all. You have to find what works for your unique body. Everyone responds to food differently. This is where tracking your own data becomes so incredibly powerful. Understanding your personal glucose patterns with tools like my Health Ghewere's AI is really the key to tailoring a plan that's built for you and not for someone else. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. Considering all the evidence, the benefits, and the very real risks, what is the right nutritional approach to help you manage your health? The answer isn't in a flashy headline. It's in your own data and in a safe, collaborative plan you make with your doctor. And finally, our standard and very important disclaimer: this content is for educational purposes only. Always, always, always consult with your doctor before making any changes to your diet, especially if you are taking medication for diabetes. Please never adjust your medications on your own.